should hereafter be inscribed upon all our national coin.
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer. For a free transcript, call American Minute at 1-888-USA-WORD.
VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And friends, thank you for joining us on Crosstalk. And just before we introduce our guest today and topic, would like to mention that today is Tuesday, March 3rd, and we remind our listeners in Arkansas, North Carolina, and Texas that this is your primary election day, which will be narrowing the field of candidates for the November 2026 general election. I mean, you're going to be picking the final candidates for the ballot, and we just encourage you to get out there and vote. Don't hold the position that, well, this is just a primary, really doesn't matter. Friends, it does matter. And as we spoke on a recent Crosstalk program, your vote is actually a stewardship, and we encourage you to use that stewardship wisely, to be informed, and to vote prayerfully. As we continue to also monitor what's taking place in the Middle East, seeking to rid the nuclear and arsenal capabilities of Iran, we continue to keep a watchful eye on what's happening there. Evacuations of United States citizens from multiple countries is being urged as well. And friends, at the same time, we are also monitoring what's happening within our own country, monitoring what's happening with AI, artificial intelligence, with the proliferation of data centers, with the encroachment of socialism and its impact over so many areas of our lives. I'm talking about food, shelter, private property, transportation, and much more. Joining us today on Crosstalk, we welcome back Tom DeWeese. He is president of the American Policy Center, one of the nation's leading advocates of individual liberty, free enterprise, private property rights, personal privacy, back-to-basics education, and American sovereignty and independence while protecting our constitutionally guaranteed rights. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Jim. I really appreciate it.
And, Tom, I know we've got a number of issues that are on our plate today, but first of all, your comment on voting. I know Texas, for instance, has, they're narrowing the candidates down for U.S. Senate and the House and many offices in the state, but there's also an advisory referendum known as Proposition 10 that Texas should prohibit Sharia. And this is really not a time for Texans to stay silent on important matters like this, because this whole matter of international law is trying to encroach into many states and communities.
Yeah, absolutely. People have got to get involved and stand up to this stuff. I am seeing too many people around the country are saying, well, Donald Trump's taking care of things, I don't have to get involved. Or the other half say, they're just too powerful. There's nothing we can do about it anyway. I hear those two things all the time. Each thing is a loss for us if you take those attitudes. Get in there, get in the voting booth, do everything you can, and make sure that your vote counts. That's the other thing that I'm very concerned about. We haven't been doing a lot of work in cleaning up the voting rolls and making sure that our ballot is safe. And those things have got to be done. If we do it, we win. But, the other side is dedicated. They're going to keep fighting, and they're not going to back off. If we do, they win.
Yeah. And, Tom, you mentioned about, that secure ballot and so forth. And we know that there's just a great bottleneck taking place right now in the U.S. Senate as it relates to the SAVE Act.
Yeah, well, see, they know that, and they will not back off at anything, and our side keeps trying to, we'll compromise with them. They won't compromise for anything, and if we're going to fight for freedom, we're going to fight for freedom, and that's a major one. We have got to make sure that the ballots are safe.
Yeah. Tom DeWeese with us today. And Tom, I know you're monitoring so many issues across this country that are really all clearly tied together, and we're going to try to get to several of them today. First of all, if you would give us an update on these data centers that are springing up across the country. There's been just a number of citizens that are standing in opposition to these. And in Wisconsin, there was just a Marquette Law School poll questioning some 818 registered voters, where 70% say that the cost of these data centers are outweighing their benefits. And that's a remarkable increase since the last time this poll happened. And we also have multiple ones of these data centers proposed for Wisconsin, but these are proposed all over the country.
They're growing everywhere, and I mean, right here in the area I live in, there are 200 of them, and they're moving to put even more in place, and that's happening around the country. These things are massive in size. There is one, I believe it's in Indiana, that Amazon wants to build that is so large that the amount of energy that it will use is equal to 1 million homes.
Wow.
Think about that. Having that all over the country, and we're always being told that we have to convert everything to electricity, but then they keep telling us that we have to go to wind and solar, which produce nothing. I mean, talk about idiocy all the way around. But these, and the other thing that really concerns me about these data centers, beyond the fact of how large they are and they are changing the culture of our local, particularly rural communities, they're really changing the culture there, and they're taking up massive amounts of electricity, massive amounts of water, and they really, when the promoters of this are telling the communities, oh, this is going to help the community grow, this is going to be financially good, that really isn't true. They're not creating a whole lot of jobs, but they have to build these data centers in order to put AI programs together, which if all of this is completed in the end, these AI programs are designed to completely control and watch every single thing you do in your life. Everything. That's why they need so much of this. It's, technology can be a good thing and being used in certain ways, but it cannot be the total control of our society, or we'll have no society. Yeah, indeed. And Tom, we know these are also collection sites as well. I mean, all these social postings people are putting out there, every text, it's being collected somewhere, and these data centers they're going to be huge storehouses of information from health to private communications to financial transactions on every person, across, our country, around the globe. Yeah, we already know, people are already talking about how their phone picks up things that are happening around them, and all of a sudden they get all these ads in for that. There's that. There are these cameras now that are being put all over the cities, everywhere. Mm-hmm. Every movement that you make is being recorded. That's what they need these data centers for, to have a power to put all that stuff in storage and have it. And then, of course, the other thing that really concerns me is this move to digital currency. The Chinese communists have been using this for a long time to control their people, that, so you don't go along with the political agenda or whatever, all of a sudden your bank account disappears. Everything you have disappears. And that's the power that they will build in putting all this together, that there's no room in a free society for this kind of control. And this is way beyond just having some great technology. I saw a report the other day, somebody trying to put all of our opposition down by saying, well, back before we had cars, we had the horseless, the horse-drawn carriages. And, well, when the cars came along, all those people working in the carriage industry went out, they went out of business. But they found a better way to live, and they tried to use that as the example of AI and how it's going to change us. This is a whole different thing. Yeah, it really is. And, Tom, I've seen some concern as well about using what they call like geofencing, meaning that how they're trying to herd everybody into these population centers, that if you go outside these parameters, that your credit card won't work or your technology will not work outside those parameters. Is that all part of this? Absolutely. I mean, step by step by step. And, because these technical people can make it do that, well, look, hey, here's something new we can do. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And I'm very disturbed that President Trump is pushing so hard to not allow states to stand up and do anything to kind of control this. What about the states their responsibility to protect the economy of their state, to protect the private property rights of the people in their state, things like that? They're moving in to stop them from doing those kind of things. And then you've got a computer tyranny that is running this country, and it's got to be controlled.
Yeah. Tom DeWeese with us today from the American Policy Center. And, Tom, you just mentioned the Trump administration, and something that many have applauded here recently from President Trump is his revoking of the 2009 Obama-era endangerment finding, which was the assumption that carbon dioxide and other gases somehow gave threat to the public health. People have been told that CO2 is a menace. And, Tom, they have dropped this, and this is a huge thing from the Trump administration.
And this is one of the great things the Trump administration has done. We've been trying to, fight this for 30, 40 years. As I've said many, many times, the tyrannical forces who are trying to take control of our lives have used the environmental issues to get us to voluntarily surrender our liberties. Doesn't matter how many rights you think you have if you don't have a planet to stand on, has been their main line on this. And using the EPA has been a major weapon that they've used against us on all this stuff. And him pushing back on that, and that we're showing that carbon is not a pollutant. It is desperately needed by everything that lives. Obama put all this stuff in place, and this rollback is going to save huge amounts of money for the free market, and get rid of a whole lot of regulations, and begin to allow us to move forward freely again. Our farmers and our food supply, everything is affected by this.
Isn't that Obama rule something that's led to what we now have the issue with these carbon capture pipelines?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the very root of it. And the idea of burying carbon in the ground, and I've said many times, I've got a chart from the U.S. Navy that shows that we have a carbon shortage. And if we have a carbon shortage, this will bring on massive environmental damage and to our economy and everything. So, all this has been the total opposite of what they said it's all about. It's not protecting the environment. It is damaging it and damaging our ability to live off the environment.
And hasn't this also been that which has just caused the price of automobiles to escalate?
Yeah, that's the other thing. And moving towards the electric car, like I said a few minutes ago, trying to move everything to electricity. We have this massive shortage of it that can all collapse overnight, and it's putting all these regulations on how to build the cars, and what they have to have in them. Yeah, all that costs us massive amounts of money.
And, friends, you're the ones that are paying for this, and President Trump has just rescinded this rule and seeking to make that really a permanent thing, Tom.
Yeah, this is what Congress has got to do. He's putting this stuff together with executive orders. But if bad things happen in this upcoming election this year, all this could be thrown out and the tyranny put right back in place. We've got to understand that. And again, like I said at the very beginning, we cannot allow make it to President Trump has to do all of this stuff by himself.
Right.
One man cannot change all this. I don't care who he is or what position he holds.
We're going to take a quick break, and Tom, I'm just going to hang up with you. We're going to try and get you on another line here. We're getting some interference there. We'll call you right back. Tom DeWeese is with us here on Crosstalk. And, friends, you're invited to tune in and listen, because we're going to get to our food supply yet. We're going to be getting to housing and other issues as well. We'll be back in just 1 minute as we talk about this continued quest for freedom with Tom DeWeese.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, president of the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, was the extinction of dinosaurs caused by an asteroid hitting the Earth,
Chris, this is a favorite evolutionary claim that some 65 million years ago an asteroid smashed into the Earth and sent the dinosaurs into extinction. But did you know that a lot of evolutionists deny this? Some are now saying that the dinosaurs were already going into extinction before the asteroid hit. You see, it's really difficult to reconstruct unobserved history. But the Bible gives us the key. The Bible tells us that God created all the animals, including the dinosaurs, during Creation Week. Most of them were wiped out in the great flood of Noah's day, and the fossils are primarily those animals that died in the flood. 2 of each kind survived on board Noah's Ark, but many of them, of course, have gone extinct since then. You see, Chris, everything fits into the Back to Genesis view of history.
Thanks for joining us for Back to Genesis.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. Tom DeWeese with us today from the American Policy Center. Their website, americanpolicy.org, americanpolicy.org. And Tom, we were just talking about the Trump rule now, President Trump rescinding the endangerment finding rule from the Obama administration, and just how that's going to unleash new freedom and lower cost for the average consumer. Just today, we received a news release from CFAC on this whole matter of energy as well, about a rapidly expanding coalition of farmers, ranchers, tribal members, energy workers, grassroots organizations, all coming together this Saturday, March 7th, at the Oklahoma State Capitol to demand an immediate halt to what organizers called a subsidy-driven wind turbine onslaught across eastern Oklahoma. There are those efforts to just really blanket the landscape with these wind turbines, again, as instead of using, our natural resources, for instance, to generate electricity and electric power.
Yeah, this is huge, and I've known CFAC has been working on this all over the country, and to really finally start to stand up and say no to this. The farmers for so long have been forced to put, they come in with, blocking taking away their ability to have their property and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Eminent domain things they come in with. Sometimes they come in and offer them a bunch of money, but in the end, it turns out it costs the farmers more money than they'll ever get from all this, and they've felt so alone for so long that there was nothing they could do, and all of a sudden that's changing, and that's huge. If we begin to fight back, we can push this back. So many things that Trump administration is doing concerning wind and solar, getting rid of it, is a good thing, because wind and solar is literally a joke. The amount of money and energy it takes to create all of this, they bury all of this vital farmland underneath solar panels and these wind farms, and then they tell us this is environmentally correct. And I've jokingly said, as they keep calling them wind farms and solar farms, that the only thing growing there are bugs underneath those solar panels. So that's what they want us to eat. That's why they call them farms.
Yeah, there we go. But certainly this is something, Oklahoma rising up in opposition to this, but we see the proliferation taking place all across the country, and they were even talking about putting these out into waterways, out into the ocean as well.
They're doing that, and the other thing that I'm seeing is a lot of people are saying, well, we don't want those solar panels to cover our farmland, but what if we put them in the parking lots and put them in sheds and so forth all over the city? And that'll be the answer to it. No, it's not. You will not want to live in that city. You'll be underground practically, underneath all of these panels. And that is not the answer. They don't create any electricity. 4 to 10% is the most they ever create. And if that's all we're using, then you've got a 90% shortage of the electricity we need as they're trying to turn everything over to electricity.
So let's transition over to food supply, and I'd like to talk about beef production. Tom, we've seen the price of beef escalate, perhaps higher than when the cow jumped over the moon. But Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy He was on stage at CattleCon February 5th, and he told the American ranchers to boost their beef production. He had a conversation with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association president. He said, I'm begging you, increase the size of your herds. And Tom, I saw that back in 1972, the U.S. had 132 million head of cattle, and that's dropped to 92 million head in 2025. Our population back then was 210 million. Today it's just over 342 million.
Yeah, this is what has been happening, and about 4 or 5 years ago, I started trying to warn people about what was happening to the beef industry. The environmentalists leave no stone unturned, and they declared that beef consumption was dangerous to the environment. Of course, we got beef flagellants, but they also were saying that cattle used way too much land for their grazing, and we need to push all that back. And step by step by step, they've put these sustainable rules over the American cattle industry, and we've had thousands of cattle producers go out of business because of this. And Kennedy, made the comment that this bringing all this Argentine beef into the country was going to lower the price of beef. What will do that much better and much more permanently is to open the free market to American cattle growers and let them do what they do best. And they do not damage the environment. If they did, they would put themselves out of business. But you have this global sustainable Cattlemen's Beef Roundtable, and it's controlled by the World Wildlife Fund, one of the biggest NGOs, environmental NGOs in the world, and they have openly said that beef consumption was dangerous to the environment. And here you have the National Cattlemen's Beef Association that joined that roundtable saying, well, that gives us a voice in what's happening here. Well, how much voice have they had? Because they're going out of business. That is, just ridiculous to be part of that. It needs to be stopped. And, again, let the cattlemen run their businesses in a free market. But you've got 4 packing companies that control everything on this, and they're part of this this roundtable. And you've got Tyson's and Cargill and JBS and National Beef, and they are dictating to the cattlemen using the Sustainable Roundtable rules how to do this. And then you get companies like McDonald's and others using lots and lots of beef, afraid to buy American beef or to oppose this Sustainable Roundtable. And so they are controlling the entire industry and making the prices rise as we have fewer growing it here. So now we go outside of the country and say, oh, here's how we're going to fix it. No, get rid of that tyranny over the beef industry and let the free market reign. So
you agree with the Secretary saying let's increase these herds?
Absolutely. Yeah. But open up the land so that and get rid of the rules and regulations on how they raise them. That has got to be done. How are you going to increase the cattle if you don't? Yeah.
Well, and then, Tom, also on the same time, we've got President Trump last month gave a proclamation titled Ensuring Affordable Beef for the American Consumer, putting on a temporary basis increases, in the amount of Argentine lean beef that come into the U.S., some 80,000 metric tons, and ranchers are warning, hey, this is going to hurt U.S. producers. Give us your thoughts on the issue.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole thing, that while the American producers are stuck under all these rules and regulations and can't do what they need to be done, here you have this foreign country that's not under that rule, and they come in and take the market. And, I mean, we were talking about America first. This is completely the opposite of that. Yeah, it's good to try to get the beef prices down, but look at why the beef prices are up. And it is because of all of these sustainable rules and regulations. Get rid of that roundtable, let the American cattlemen grow, and get off their backs.
Let's hit another aspect of the food supply and so forth, and that is this bird flu, Tom. We have killing millions and millions and millions of chickens, and I just quickly put a web search on this, and I think it's University of Nebraska Medical Center said that killing 166 million birds hasn't stopped poultry, farmer. We're talking about these multiple millions and millions and millions of chickens we're killing because sometimes we find a couple birds tested positive for the flu, and so we're killing whole flocks of them.
Yeah, that is as bogus as it gets. And like you said, 2 or 3 birds they found. This is you don't do that.
Yeah.
And these rules and regulations, and these people who you have to study what they believe is what we should be eating and so forth. And you ask people anywhere, are you going to eat bugs when they tell us we have to do that? And people say, no way, I'm not going to do that. Well, the way they're going to make sure that's what you do is eliminate all the other sources of food. And how do they do that? They come up with rules and regulations that put our food industry out of business. And then you don't have a choice. You are dictated to, and you either starve or you eat a lightning bug.
So, Tom,
one or the other.
Yeah, I've heard you use a term over and over again, and it's the word regulations. Is that really the core issue?
Yes. That is the tool. That's the core tool.
Mm-hmm.
How they're putting this together. The core issue is their agenda and what they, how they see all of us need to live. And it's not just food. It's everything in our lives, our housing, our jobs, that's where we go back to the AI stuff. All of that goes to a very core agenda by World Economic Forum, the United Nations, other groups like that, the World Wildlife Fund, all these NGOs. They are moving towards control, and this is how they do it. And they use the environment as the scare tactic to get you to voluntarily go along with it and give up your liberties.
So President Trump has been chipping away at this and making some grand strides, but you're saying there's a whole lot more that needs to be done.
Absolutely. I'll be honest with you. It is so vast that one person like President Trump, who is doing fantastic things in those ways, especially what he's done with the EPA and some of those things, he can't possibly understand and know and be able to act on every single thing that's affecting us. And we all have to get involved here. They're putting a lot of this in place right in your own community and through your city councils, your county commissions, and we aren't there. Our people who don't like government don't want to be involved in fighting it in the government levels, and so they're just moving forward with it unopposed and pushing this stuff on our local elected officials. And if you talk to them, they'll say, "Well, there's nothing we can do about this. It's just the way it's done now," and that's what we run into. But no, we've got to fight it at the local level, and we can stop it at the federal level.
Tom, let's hit another issue, because we've talked about some matters pertaining to, well, certainly elections, but also that of energy, talking about our food supply. But I'd like to also make sure we have some minutes here on the matter of housing. And President Trump just recently announced plans to ban institutional investors from buying single-family houses in order to boost affordability. Reportedly, there are some pretty large financial institutions like Blackstone that have purchased thousands of single-family homes since 2008.
Yeah, this is a major thing. It was a huge thing that Trump did on this to move forward. We are being told all over the country that we have a housing shortage. We don't have a housing shortage. We have a government problem. The government regulations that are moving to put the smart growth programs in place, the 15-minute cities, all of that, they are moving to get rid of single-family neighborhoods and move apartment buildings into all of that. So we're all just living there in the apartment buildings, and we don't have our own home. And what's happening is BlackRock and is one of the most powerful corporations in the world, and they are behind all of this. And as they move in to block the growing of single-family neighborhoods, property values going down. People are selling their houses for nothing to get out of there. They're buying it up, building those apartment buildings, making a fortune off of it.
Friends, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back to the housing matter here in just a minute. So stay with us. Tom DeWeese with us from the American Policy Center. AmericanPolicy.org is the website. Our topic today, the continued quest for freedom. We'll be right back.
Christian life, and especially if you're in ministry, you will suffer trials that sap your strength and cause you to ask, will I survive? In the book, Press On, You Can. Pastor Dave Barba takes a look at the causes of frustration and discouragement, including loneliness, financial stress, temptation, physical affliction, rejection, and more. With emphasis on God's frontline soldiers, you'll be reminded that through every trial, God supplies grace to overcome and the courage to press on. With helpful exhortations and applications, this book will become a lifeline for you when you feel like stepping out of the race. Press On. You can. Available for a donation of $12 by calling 1-800-729-9829. 1-800-729-9829.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. Tom DeWeese, our guest today on the program. And friends, so many areas. And again, yes, we're vigilant what's happening in the Middle East, and it's significant. We're going to be back on it, Lord willing, tomorrow if we can, Thursday for sure, and talking about many of these things happening there. But we also, with a broad focus, look at what's taking place in our nation right now as well. And right now, as we're talking with Tom DeWeese from the American Policy Center, focusing on this matter of housing. Tom, I was just shocked this morning to read in our one of our news outlets here the matter of the move to allow residents to put in an additional dwelling place in their backyard to accommodate more people to live, or to help somebody else out in need, or bring other family in that will help take care of their housing needs, but actually putting another house on one's same property.
Yeah, this is one of the tactics that they're using, and then you end up with more people, more cars, more everything, less property. The argument that the people behind this have used is that they look at a single-family neighborhood and they see a family of four that lives in a home of their own with a backyard, with a driveway, and the argument they use is, we could put 100 families in that space, and we have a housing shortage. And as I mentioned to you, Senator Fetterman in Pennsylvania last year in last Congress put in a bill to make this getting rid of single-family neighborhoods a federal regulation. And he said when he introduced this, by transforming our zoning regulations, more people will have access to affordable and diverse types of housing, higher paying jobs, and healthy and safe communities. What they're saying here is that in those nicer neighborhoods, there are higher paying jobs, and people who are living in government housing down in another part of town don't have access to the higher paying jobs or the better schools and so forth. So we're going to move them up into these neighborhoods. We destroy the neighborhoods and turn them into what's basically the public housing neighborhoods, but somehow you're going to get a higher salary when you do that. I mean, this is totally bogus. The reason that public housing is such a mess is because the people who are running the public housing have no stake in it. They're bureaucrats who just have their job no matter what. So the air conditioning doesn't work, the windows are broken, they've got the gangs there, you've got the prostitutes, you've got the drug dealers, and they're all hanging out there, and they don't care. They're going to bring all that to you got a single-family home because you like that neighborhood, you like that home, you got neighbors you deal with, and they're trying to say that it's racist. In fact, the mayor of Minneapolis said that they're racist because having zoning protections for those single-family homes makes it so that they can not have to live next to certain people. Totally untrue. They ever hear of the Civil Rights Act? But this is the arguments that they use. Well,
and some of you are thinking it can happen here. We pride ourselves in private property ownership, but friends, let us remind you of what transpired with the election of now a socialist mayor for New York City, Zoran Mamdani, and he has appointed Sia Weaver as his tenant director. We understand she's a longtime member of the Democratic Socialist America. And first of all, here's what she had to say in regard to property ownership. And I'm talking about private property ownership.
I I think the reality is that for centuries we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good, and we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently, and it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
Tom, that is communism.
Absolutely, and it's slavery. It's our founding fathers were adamant about private property. They understood for the individual to have a chance to build their own personal wealth, that private property was the main way you do that. You buy the property, it becomes more valuable as you go along, you get equity in it. This is how you get loans. Over 60% of the businesses in this country were created from, paid for from the equity of people's private property. And, the private property is the route to free enterprise and all that. All those things, these guys, they're totally against that. And that's pure communism, that they make the decisions on everybody. They control it. You will have no decision on how you live, where you live, what the condition of it will be, because they're controlling it.
Tom, let me also play one other clip from her, because there's a term that they use that sounds so good, and it's the term rent control. We're going to control rents, and people are saying, oh, good, that's going to keep us from greedy landlords. Let's hear a clip, and then we'll get you to comment.
We decided that fighting for rent control was a strategic and critical first step in the fight for full social housing. So a lot of times people ask, why are we fighting for rent control when we have NYCHA? We should be fighting to save our public housing. We decided that through a program like rent control, we are able to sort of directly challenge the logic of unfettered profit in the real estate market. And we are able to directly challenge housing as a wealth building tool, and through regulation strike a blow to the entire real estate industry at once. And so the beauty of rent stabilization and rent control is that it weakens the speculative value of the real estate asset. The value is no longer based on what the landlord is able to get, but rather it's based on a state public board who's deciding how much rent is going up. And yes, that board is controlled by the real estate industry. And yes, there could be a better way to regulate it. But the idea is that we could weaken the entire industry at once through a strong rent control campaign, and that would strengthen our ability to do things like fight for social housing.
Weaken the entire housing industry, Tom, by rent controls.
Absolutely. First of all, they're beginning to, the way she was talking is that the landlords will become their slaves, because they have to bow down and lower the rents to whatever they tell it would be. That she said that this all be overseen by the real estate industry. No, it won't. It's going to be overseen by the city government. And what's going to happen is you're going to put those landlords out of business, and now government will take over all of that housing. That'll be run just about the same way as the free grocery stores. Nothing on the shelves and nothing to buy, and your home will be just like I just described, the public housing and why it is so bad. That's going to happen to the nicest apartment buildings in town in New York City. They're going to become the same kind of tenement slums, and you'll have nothing working in your thing. Who would fix it? Who do you go to be responsible for it? The reason that privately owned rental property is nicer than public property is because the landlord has pride in his product, and he knows it needs to be nice if he's going to be able to put it on the market and be successful with it. That's the difference between the communists and the free enterprise, is that the communists say, we control you no matter what, you got no choice, and the free enterprise says, here's what you might like, it's your choice.
Friends, let's open our phone lines to give you opportunity to ask questions of our guest today. We're talking about food supply. We're talking about housing, talking about energy and related issues. Friends, our number to Crosstalk, 800-733-9829, 800-733-9829. And Tom, in that clip we also heard, we have to challenge housing as a wealth-building tool. And a lot of people will, invest in private property to build equity and certainly to have something to later retire from. But she said we have to challenge housing as a wealth-building tool.
Well, that's the challenge of the free market versus communism. And we all know, all you have to do is the history is there very recently of the Soviet Union and what the place looked like with all the bare shelves and nobody had any choice in anything and they living in utter poverty controlled by the government. Mm-hmm. What more do you need to know about what they want to put together? Like they're saying, the Soviets didn't do it right, we'll do it better. Yeah, they always say that.
Tom, you've got tools on your website to help people. I mean, some of these things seem so massive. How are we going to battle this housing? How do we battle food and energy and housing, all these things that are going on?
Yeah, we have, our website, AmericanPolicy.org, we've got lots and lots of 30 years of articles on there about all these issues, so you get a good background to it. We've also created many tools and a strategy on how to fight back, how to organize in your local community. It's vital that you do that. Don't wait for it to come from the federal government because it's not going to. If you aren't building from the bottom up, that's how our founders built this government, at the local level is where you have the most impact, and that would establish so much. And I call it building a freedom pod. And we've got our handbook there for the local activists to how to do this step by step, how to organize and how to stand up to it. We're building all the time new things, and if I may give a selfless promotion here, I am trying to book around the country to speak to people's communities, to local organizations and so forth on how to organize and stuff. And you can go into our website. There's a spot there under says speakers and are speaking, and you can click on that and get the details and send me a note there if you would like me to come and see if we can help get organized in your community.
Friends, again, that's AmericanPolicy.org, and he's gone out to places like South Dakota and Wisconsin and multiple states. I mean, all these states, Iowa, they're doing the carbon capture pipelines and on and on. Go to AmericanPolicy.org, click on the speaking tab, and get more information there. Let's go to the phone lines. We have Greg calling from New Mexico. Hi, Greg, you're on the air.
Hi. And I wanted to ask about, in the beginning of the show, and thank you for taking my call, you're talking about AI, and I'm very concerned at this point in time about AI because, Trump's just totally been out of shape and just banned Anthropic because they wouldn't allow the government to just use their AI for anything, including mass surveillance. So I'm concerned about this mass surveillance. You've talked about that in other programs.
Yeah. Tom.
Yeah, well, that's my main concern about it. And the mass surveillance and the way it affects our economy, a lot of people don't understand that you're hearing all kinds of businesses talk about how they're going to get rid of employees. They won't need them anymore they'll have the AI doing the job. And I keep asking the question, how are you going to have any customers if nobody has a job? But with the mass surveillance, as I said earlier, every single aspect of your life, from your money and how you spend it, products that you buy, where you go, who you associate with, how you're able to travel. In the 15-minute cities, they don't want you to have cars, and they've openly said that. And so you have to use public transportation or walk or ride your bike. And all of this is piece and part of that. It is absolutely a terrifying thing of how we're supposed to have a free society and move forward with our own ideas, our own hopes, our own dreams. What do we do? And this has got to be controlled. It's got to be stopped.
Thank you, Greg, for the call. We are up against a break, and friends, we'll take the break, and we'll come back to more of your phone calls here on Crosstalk at 800-733-9829. So those of you on hold, just stay there. We'll get to your calls here in just a moment. Tom DeWeese with us. Again, the website, AmericanPolicy.org, AmericanPolicy.org. And if you'd like information on having Tom come out to speak, just click on the speaking tab there and get more information there as well. They also have updated alerts that they send out. You can sign up for those also, AmericanPolicy.org. Back in a minute.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brennan House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. Well, America and Israel have gone now after Iran, and the regime seems to be falling very quickly. But this could go on, some experts say, for weeks or months. But it's interesting to note how Iran is now going after other Muslim nations, attacking them as well. Will this cause many of those nations that once leaned toward Iran now to back away from the hardliners? And if so, how will this lay the foundation for the Abraham Accords? How will this allow for the coming age of peace? One that President Trump is working on with his International Peace Board, but also something that seems to be implied in Daniel chapter 8 and other places, that the Antichrist, and we don't know who that is yet, will come in riding on the platform of peace. It's a false peace before he himself turns to war in order to establish his New World Order. But certainly the stage is set for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled.
Tom DeWeese, our guest here today on Crosstalk, and right back to the phone lines we go, and we've got Manny who is calling in. Hi, Manny, you're on the air.
So thank you for taking my call. I'm a resident of New Jersey out here in Arizona, just kind of scouting territory to see where I can retire. And so we have that very same problem in New Jersey. We just got a new governor, Mikey Sherrill, who promised to come in and make things affordable, yet she's not even 2 months into her term and already talking about a $3 billion shortfall so that she wants to raise the property taxes in our state as well as other taxes to pay for the illegal immigration problem that we have. Now, I say this because this is a plan that both the Democrat and the Republican parties in New Jersey are both working together on. And even if we get a candidate in there to get somebody out, we're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place to get a full-fledged, I guess, new Senate in our state to get these things changed. And that's why we're suffering, because they're making it unaffordable through government taxes for us to live. And we can't live this way. You know, we pay the highest property tax in the country. I currently pay $15,000 for a 2,000 square foot home in West Orange, New Jersey.
Wow.
And so we're kind of stuck there. And so we see these policies happening, and there's nothing we can do. The reality is this. Both parties have aligned with these big corporations to take full control over this area. And it's going to be coming to a state near you soon.
Yeah, Manny, I'm going to have our guest comment here on that situation. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Manny, I fully understand what you're saying. It's happening all over the country. And, one reason those corporations have that power to control everything like that is because of what I've been talking about, these rules and regulations, that they're giving them the power to make those decisions and control the free market. And that's what they're doing. And they use their connection with the government to help put their competition out of business and put their product in place. The way, I mean, I fully understand your frustration and what, how can you get a candidate that's any good? This is why I'm advocating people organizing in their community, doing research, understanding who and what is being done, who's behind it. And if you can organize in a way to communicate with the people in the community to get that information out and show them, here's this guy who's running for office or this guy who holds this position, here's who he is, here's what he said, here's how he affects you, and really paint them what they really are and give them a lot of negativity. They hate that spotlight put on them. But this is how we can, begin to build pressure and either make them change what they're doing or get them out of office. It's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah, and again, Manny, I know you're driving right now, but stay informed. Go to Tom's website and just put in your name and email address, and Tom's alerts will go out to you as well. That's AmericanPolicy.org. For sake of time, we do have to move on to another caller. Jude in Linden Station, you're on the air.
Well, hello. And God bless you both and your ministries and for getting the word out. I just have a question for Tom. Have you read Agenda 2030? And if you have, are you getting most of your facts from that?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I've read it.
Yeah, we've interviewed on that.
Yeah, Agenda 2030 is the same as Agenda 21 with more detail to it. And what they did is they came up with 17 goals that are now called the SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals, that communities are using as their guideline to put a lot of these policies in place. It covers the economy. It covers your energy use. Of course, the environment's mentioned in it as well. But how you live, everything is mentioned in those 17 goals. It is the guideline to putting all this stuff in place.
Yeah, thank you. And he's written much about that on his website as well. Thank you for the call. Kay is calling next from Kansas. Kay, you're on the air.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. And Tom, I want to thank you for all your efforts. They're very commendable. And the bottom line with these strategies, these infiltrators, is greed. It is greed for power and money. I want to give a verse real quick, and then a question about smart meters
we're down to
water.
we're down to 2 minutes. Go ahead, Kay.
Okay, righteousness exalteth a nation. Proverbs 14:34. Sin is a disgrace to all people. I'm not quoting that exactly right, but that word righteousness doesn't mean just living to yourself a holy life.
Kay, can we go to your question, please, for Tom?
Okay, question about smart meters for water. Those are being installed in Kansas, and I just wondered, it has to do with surveillance, and it's very concerning. I just wonder what you can say.
What they're doing with the smart meters is they are controlling how much energy you use. This is why the move towards all the apartment buildings. They can much more easily control the energy that you use. This is a major tool in their attempts to control your life. Yeah, and again, go to Tom's website. He's written on this issue as well. We're going to squeeze one last call in. Eric in the Panhandle of Florida, you're on the air.
Yeah, good program. I'm just hoping it's not too late for the folks in Texas. We haven't lived there since '94. And I'm getting texts from a guy, I don't want to say his name and get any publicity, but he's anti-ICE. He wants a $20 minimum wage. He wants Medicare for all. And I forgot the other, no PAC money, zero PAC money, but he says his candidates are. Yeah. I'm just hoping it's not too late for them good folks in Texas to get rid of these crazy, progressive liberals.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Tom, people have got to get out and vote. Well, they have to get out, and you cannot sit home and say, well, Trump's going to take care of it, or there's nothing we can do about these guys. You've got to do it. It's your community. It is your job to get out there and organize and expose these people and make sure you get them out of office. You have to do it. It's your home. It's your family. It's your life. You decide. And as Edmund Burke, mentioned, Tom, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And we can't sit on our laurels. We do have to be engaged. And, friends, one of the ways you can get engaged, go to Tom's site, sign up for his free newsletter as he puts it out and writes on issues, AmericanPolicy.org. If you'd like him to come to your community area to speak, just click on the speaking tab and get more information there as well. Tom, thank you so much for coming on and warning our listeners on so many important issues. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And, Tom, I know you believe the bottom line, there is hope through all of this as well. I absolutely do. I will not surrender to communism. Stupid things like that. Tom DeWeese, our guest today. Again, folks, the website, AmericanPolicy.org. Thank you so much for tuning in daily here to the program called Crosstalk, keeping you informed on a number of critical issues from a conservative and biblical perspective. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.